Hi everybody! This week we're going to be looking at the Rococo style, which is a French painting style that mostly took place in the 18th century. My goal with this short video is to make sure that you can recognize the French Rococo style in painting when you see it. And that's actually pretty easy. Something I really like about this style is that once you see several of these artworks and learn the main characteristics, if you walk into a museum, you can recognize a Rococo painting from across the room. You don't have to read the label or anything. So I'm going to go ahead and show you several Rococo paintings, and by the end of this short lesson, you should be able to recognize them on sight. Take a look at each of these paintings, just generally. Look around at the colors, the general composition. I'm going to flip through several. Did you notice that all of the kinds of brushstrokes that we see here are sort of blurry? You don't see any really hard lines with edges. Instead, there's a kind of blur throughout. Look in the sky here. You see that tree just kind of appears against the sky. We don't see hard edges to the tree. And that's true pretty much everywhere in all of these. Art historians often call that a feathery brushstroke. Imagine painting with a feather instead of a paintbrush and how it would be sort of a light touch and sort of fluffy. That's what we're seeing. So Rococo paintings have a very feathery brushstroke. That can make the whole painting look sort of blurry. So if you're standing back and you see the painting across the room, it's going to have a generally kind of blurred feel. Not in a bad way, just sort of a soft focus. Another thing you might have noticed is that there's lots of colors in these, but none of the colors are very saturated. By that I mean you don't see the reddest red or the bluest blue. Everything's a little bit washed out. It's not a bad thing, it's more just gentle. These artists are trying to make very sort of gentle, easy to look at paintings, so nothing's very intense. Soft brushstrokes, soft colors. This one's a great example, I think, for those kinds of colors, because you can name all the colors here. It has pretty much every color in the spectrum, but none of them are very saturated. Another thing to note about these, and hopefully you noticed it as we were going through, is that you see how each one has a lot going on. There's lots to look at. There's someone over here. There's some interesting trees here. Here's this sculpture. Here's this lady. All of these make your eye move all around the composition. They're not very structured. They don't have you looking at, a line of things from left to right, the way that some more structured paintings like neoclassical paintings, which we'll look at soon, have. So there's a lack of kind of structure in the composition. It's more just your eye slowly moving everywhere. The last thing to note has to do with the subject matter. That's often what students noticed first. Everyone's having a really good time in these paintings. They're at parties, they're laying around, they're listening to music, they're flirting with each other. If you take the Rococo painter's word for it, people in this period never had a bad day. They're always just having fun and relaxing. No one's ever sick. Nobody ever dies. Of course, that's not true. But in their way of seeing their lives, everything is sort of perfect and sweet. So Rococo style subject matter tends to be very, very carefree. Lots of images of people flirting with each other, having parties, and so on. I'm going to go through one more time from the beginning, and hopefully you'll be able to recognize that these all have those characteristics in common. So, to recap, the French Rococo style tends to have feathery brushstrokes, light colors that aren't super saturated, a swirling type of composition, not very structured, and light-hearted themes, people at parties, people flirting with one another. That's a really good start for you moving forward. Now, you'll go on to learn more about this historical period, and you'll study some individual Rococo artists in more depth.